In 1991, the first webcam was used in the University of Cambridge. This is an image it took. This is a 128 by 128 pixel grayscale image of the Trojan Room coffee pot, viewable by a bespoke application called X-Coffee. Here is the tragic last picture of it being taken offline. In 1994, the first commercial webcam became available, called the Kinetics QuickCam. It was capable of a 320 by 240 grayscale image. By the early 2000s, companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Logitech were all trying to get webcams into the home, and instant messaging platforms like Yahoo and MSN Messenger were adding support for video calls. This was all long before the likes of Discord and Zoom. The year is 2024, and we have massive pan-tilt zoom cameras like this Logitech Rally behind me. But what if you could have the same technology in the palm of your hand? Right now I'm being recorded on the OBSBOT Tiny Lite, a powerful pan-tilt zoom 4K webcam with AI motion tracking capabilities, and it may very well rival the Osmo Pocket 3 recording behind me. Now if you're new here, welcome. My name is Payne and I cover gaming tech and everything in between. Typically I would never ask anybody to like and subscribe, but I am so close now to 1,000 subscribers. So if you like what you see today, then please like the video. And I'd really appreciate it if you checked out some of my other videos, maybe subscribe too if that works for you. Today, as mentioned, we're covering the OBSBOT Tiny Lite, a pretty cool little camera that was sent to me direct from OBSBOT free of charge. This video is not sponsored, they're not paying me to complete this video, and I will do one thing for you. I will get to the point. I do that in almost every single one of my videos. Is the OBSBOT Tiny Lite worth your cash? Well, the answer to that, luckily, is yes, it absolutely is. In fact, this little camera has impressed me so much that I'm planning on getting a second one, and in just a moment, I'll tell you why. As you can see, the autofocus is pretty good, and it really does rival that of the Osmo Pocket 3. The Osmo Pocket 3 being a significantly more expensive camera. And while the Osmo Pocket 3 is more versatile as a camera, if I was setting up something stationary, I would want a couple of these little guys or something else in the OBSBOT range to be able to cover me. You see, as part of the OBSBOT Center software, you can have multiple cameras, which means that I can capture multiple angles. And that gives a little bit more variation in terms of what you're seeing. It makes the video a little bit more interesting. Okay, let's do a couple of tests. First of all, we'll take a look at 4K versus 1080p. This is what the Tiny 2 looks like at 4K 30 frames per second with motion controls enabled. This is what the OBSBOT Tiny 2 looks like at 1080p 60 frames per second with motion controls turned on. Okay, let's take a quick look at the motion tracking. I've been pretty impressed so far with the Tiny 2. I'm going to get my Pocket 3 to run at the same time, and we'll see if we can trip this thing up a little bit. I've actually found that the Osmo Pocket 3 loses me well before the Tiny 2 does. You can see that the Tiny 2 is hunting for me, but as soon as I come back into the picture, it picks me back up again, and away we go. It's pretty cool. I'm going to show you some of the gestures as well. So there are a few different gestures you can do. One of them is to place your hand up like so with your fingers apart, and that causes tracking to stop. So as you can see now, the tracking is not continuing. It is, of course, on my Pocket 3. I'll place my hand back up again, and we will see that tracking once again continues, which is pretty awesome. Another one is a zoom feature. So L like a loser, and it zooms right in on me. It even readjusts for my face there. And then I place my finger up like so again, zoom out. You can also do a dynamic zoom, which I believe is 2 L's like this, and then it's out and back in again. As I make these gestures, there's actually a light that flickers to let me know that it's accepted the command. You can see that there. Now this might seem like a bit of a gimmick to you, but if you're a one-man or woman operation and you don't have anybody to control the camera, you can use these gestures. Now up until this point, you've been listening to the video with me using the DJI Mic 2. But right now you're listening to me from the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite's inbuilt camera. I've got my kid watching YouTube there in the background, and this is just what the environment sounds like with weak noise cancellation turned on. If you look over to the side here, you can see noise reduction has multiple settings, starting from off and going all the way up to strong. This is what it sounds like with noise cancellation turned off. This is what it sounds like on weak. This is noise cancellation turned to medium. And finally, this is strong noise cancellation. Now, usually I would use an external microphone, but using the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite's inbuilt microphone in a pinch may be the way to go. You tell me what you think in the comments below. Now, earlier I did mention that I was planning on getting a second one of these, either an OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite or maybe even the slightly better Tiny 2. And this is for two reasons. The first being versatility. I could have a camera set up over here and another camera set up over here on the side on a tripod. I could even introduce a third if I wanted to by moving it from the top of my monitor to the top of my laptop screen, like so. And the tracking still continues. Pretty cool. And the second reason is price. The cost of me buying another DSLR camera or a second one of these Osmo Pocket 3s suddenly starts to add up quite a lot. I could very easily go out and buy 2, 3 or 4 of these cameras for the same sort of price. And I permanently have multiple angles set up ready for me to record at a moment's notice. Now for this stage, you are interested in picking up the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite yourself, you can head over to the OBSBOT website and see it valued at $269. That's with a 10% discount. However, a little extra bonus, you can apply the following discount code, which is OBSBOT AUT, that's OBSBOT AUT, and hit apply, giving you an additional 5% off, which is pretty good. This discount will work in the US and all over the world, and will also work on Amazon as well. OBSBOT have just told me that during the 8th until the 17th of October, they'll be running a 15% off promotion for Amazon Big Deal Days. So if you do see Big Deal Days in the title of this video, have a quick look because you might save yourself some extra cash. Let's get on with the video. Okay, let's take a look at the OBSBOT Center software. Now, normally there's some sort of sacrifice involved when purchasing hardware. You either have really good hardware and subpar software, or pretty good software, but the hardware could use some work. Luckily, that doesn't seem to be the case here. I'm pretty impressed with the OBSBOT Center software, so let's take a look at some of the functions that it has. Now, as mentioned, you can use multiple cameras in the OBSBOT Center software. The same can be said of using something like OBS Studio, which is not a piece of software that's made by OBSBOT, but very clearly designed to be used with it. If we had multiple cameras, I would be able to switch between 1, 2, 3, and 4, like so. Here we have other settings that involve the different types of tracking. So right now we have standard tracking, which is designed for a talking head type situation. You can also change it to motion, which moves quite a bit faster and would be suitable for something that is high motion. I'm going to turn that down. I right now have normal tracking turned on. If I was to click on that and then move from left to right, you would find that it would turn off. There is a little indicator up on the webcam as well that indicates to me that motion tracking is turned on. That light is green. When I go ahead and hit normal tracking, it becomes blue again. I can make some adjustments where it focuses more on upper body. If I was standing up, that would be more prevalent, as well as close up, which will again focus on a close up. Like so. Let's roll on back. Group is if you have multiple people in your shot, and that changes to a purple LED to signify that it's on the group mode. We also have presets. If I go ahead and hit add on preset and then head down to more settings, I can do things like turning on and off tracking this way. I can make adjustments to whether or not autofocus is enabled or disabled, or if it focuses more on everything around me versus my face, things like auto exposure and so on. I can include another setting such as going ahead and having bokeh turned on or off, giving that blurry background. We can increase the blur level as well. And there's a native and an advanced option. Advanced is if you're using an NVIDIA graphics card, you can install an additional piece of software to be able to access that. So we might want to have that turned on there. And like so, we would also go ahead and maybe add one more that would say as initial state, which means that it would turn off all of the additional enhancements. So here's a good example. I go ahead and press this, and we find that the bokeh effect would then turn off. And then let's just say I'm going into a Zoom call or something like that. I want to switch it back on again and don't want to use Zoom's virtual background settings. And I could go ahead and press preset 2, and you can see that the bokeh effect returns once more. We'll go back to the default there. All of these can be renamed to make it easier for you to track. We also have the ability to be able to move around the gimbal like so if we want to move it this way. And there's a little arrow on the side here that allows you to change it from fast to slow. And that, of course, in turn ends up turning off the tracking. So I'm going to turn that back on again up the top here, and we're going to move over to the next section. Now, we have autofocus turned on at the moment. It's set to a global mode. I can set it so that it's just focusing on my face like so. We've got auto exposure, all of these things. You've got anti-flicker. Depending on where you are in the world, you may want to make an adjustment based off what kind of lights you have above you. 50 Hertz is typically something that I would do if I was in Australia. 60 Hertz potentially if you're in the US or using a different type of light. You can also turn that off. Anti-flicker is pretty good these days. You can make adjustments to your white balance, which means that you can match up with another camera, such as my Osmo Pocket 3 over here, and then you can do changes like your contrast, saturation, and so on. Your gesture controls, we might want to turn those on or just have them off. If you have a tendency of holding up your hand like this a lot, then you might find that starts to get a little annoying. And so you might want to go ahead and turn that feature off. Let's go back again. What am I doing? I'm doing this. No, this one. There we go. We also have a record functionality, which I've been using throughout the course of this video. And you will find that there are settings in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen down here that also allow you to be able to make adjustments to what sort of microphone you're using. You can even enter those audio settings and go as far as activating additional microphones if you have them. Over here is the virtual camera, but I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. If we jump over here, you can see that there are additional options to be able to touch up your appearance if you want to. So we can go ahead and turn on that background blur and increase it like so. And you can also use NVIDIA's advanced version of this, which is probably going to perform a little bit better, truth be told. We're going to turn that off for the moment. There are options here to retouch. These same features exist on many mobile phones, as well as the Osmo Pocket 3 over here. If we go ahead and hit retouch, you can make adjustments between native, classic, and man in big letters. Don't know why it's like that, but that's what it says, man. I am a man, so therefore I'm going to go ahead and click on that for the moment, and we can make little changes here around tone, smoothing out my face to a point that is, well, it's not, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. We'll turn up clarify, let's slim down my face a little bit there. Looks pretty good. Maybe turn on the smoothness here. We can really narrow my face. Drop those kilos, huh? Not bad. And then go ahead and add filters as well. You can also do things to your nose, max out our cheekbones over there, make my eyes a bit bigger. Oh, that's weird. Whiten my teeth. Oh, that's not bad, although it's nasolabial. Interesting. And always the ever popular makeup. Let's max out some of that. Yep, I like it. Put some blush on and so on. Look, the reality is that these features are pretty gimmicky, but some people like playing around with them, and I like the fact that OBSBOT have gone ahead and included these features in the camera. So you can play around with them if you want. The catch here is that if you wanted this to be viewable on something like a Zoom call, you would have to go ahead and enable a virtual camera. And what that means is that the virtual camera will include all of these additional features that I've turned on. I look ridiculous. And then you would go ahead and select a virtual camera in Zoom rather than the native camera itself. Now, another piece of software that works very well with OBSBOT Center is OBS Studio. Let's open that up now. Now, as you can see, I have a camera already set up here, and that camera is detected as the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite stream camera, which is completely fine. However, if I was to enable options like bokeh, for example, you would find that the blur level does not adjust. The same thing if I was to retouch any of my features and so on. None of those adjustments occur. And the reason for that is that we need to set up the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite as a virtual camera. I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and turn off all of these features, and we're going to go ahead and hit the virtual camera button. Now you'll notice a little tip here. It says that once the virtual camera is enabled, please select OBSBOT virtual camera in the camera options. Please note that the original camera video stream will no longer be available. An additional warning will appear. It tells you that it failed to enable the virtual cameras. And the reason for that is that we have OBS Studio and OBSBOT Center both running together at the same time. They can run together at the same time, that's completely fine, but we need to shut them down first. OBSBOT Center takes just a few moments to start up, And now we're going to go ahead and turn on our virtual camera. We're now going to open up OBS Studio, and you can see that the screen is currently blank. That's because the virtual camera is now enabled. We simply double click on video capture device and change over to the virtual camera. Now the virtual camera is enabled. If I was to then go ahead and turn on bokeh, it would work. And again, the advanced version I find is just a little bit better. You can make your adjustments on the blur level, and you can go as far as having a bit of fun with your friends by making some adjustments to your face, like so. I do not look good. Now, very clearly this camera will shine for streaming situations. I'm not personally a streamer, but if you were to go on Twitch, a camera like this would work perfectly fine. And in conjunction with something like OBS Studio, you can have yourself a really cool and sophisticated setup. The way that I actually am going to use this camera is to make YouTube videos exactly like this. Now again, most people would go out there and they would buy something like a DSLR camera, Canon, Fuji, Sony, or so on, throw it on a tripod, and away they would go. And that's all well and good. But as I mentioned before, I want multiple angles. And so the best way for me to be able to do that, especially one that has tracking as well, would be to grab a couple of these guys. I think it would work really, really well in my setup. In fact, let's take a quick look now at what it would be like to have two separate cameras recording at the same time for the purposes of putting them together in post-production. And so here we are. What I've done is that I've opened up two versions of OBS Studio. I've gone ahead and put two separate video capture devices, one being the Tiny 2 Lite stream camera, and the other one being my Osmo Pocket 3. From there, I'm using a single audio input capture device, which is all coming from my Osmo Pocket 3, which is then linked to the Mic 2. You could do the same for the OBSBOT integrated audio as well. And then from there, effectively what you've got is two separate recordings that might be slightly out of sync. The good news is that in post, you can fix that up quite easily because they're using the same audio source. This doesn't just stop with OBS Studio either. You can do the same with OBSBOT Central. I'll show you how. Simply open up your first instance of OBSBOT Studio, open up another. It'll come up with a warning indicating that you already have one open, but you can go ahead and launch it anyway. Which means that once you have a second version of this open, you could theoretically click on a second camera and control it that way, which is pretty cool. And that's it for this video. If you're looking for a way to be able to level up your content, have multiple camera angles and a more sophisticated streaming and or video production setup, then the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite is the camera for you. And the fact that you can combine it with other cameras in the OBSBOT range, or alternatively go out there and pair it with something like my Osmo Pocket 3, makes it an incredibly versatile setup for not a whole lot of money. So if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, then please consider the like and subscribe. And if you do plan on picking up an OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite or any other device or camera from the OBSBOT range, then please take a look at my referral links below. And when I do go ahead and pick up another one of these cameras, I'll be using my 5% discount code, which is available on screen in front of you, as well as in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the comments. Bye everyone.